Last week, a collector walked out of a Grand Seiko boutique and paid $6,500 for a watch that was sitting on Chrono 24 for $4,200 in full set condition with box and papers. He had no idea. The Grand Seiko secondary market has quietly dropped 5.5% in 6 months, and 5 specific references took the hardest hits, 30 to 38% below retail, for reasons that every serious collector in the community already knows, and that almost nobody outside it has figured out yet. If you are thinking about buying a Grand Seiko right now, or if you already own one of these 5 references, what you are about to learn is information the authorized dealer has no interest in volunteering. Number 1. Grand Seiko SBGJ203 High Beat 36000 GMT Mount Iwate Dial Reference SBGJ203 Retail approximately $5,400 at United States authorized dealers. Secondary market right now, as of August 2026 on Chrono 24, $3,750 in good condition, $4,200 to $4,500 for full set with box and papers. A Grand Seiko authorized dealer will sell you this watch for $5,400 today. A Chrono 24 listing from a trusted seller with original box and papers dated 2021 is asking $3,750. The SBGJ203 is powered by the Caliber 9 S86. Grand Seiko's high beat automatic running at 36,000 vibrations per hour, or 10 beats per second, against the standard industry 28,800 vibrations per hour. That higher frequency translates to +5 to -3 seconds per day accuracy in daily use, which Grand Seiko certifies independently of COSC. The GMT function adds a red fourth hand tracking a second time zone against a 24-hour scale on the chapter ring. The black dial carries the Mount Iwate pattern, a series of ridged lines inspired by the contours of the mountain visible from Studio Shizukuishi, where Grand Seiko's mechanical watches are assembled. The 40mm case is stainless steel with Zaratsu polished surfaces, dual curved sapphire crystal, and 100 meters of water resistance. The specific reason the SBGJ203 is trading at 30 to 35% below retail in 2026 is not complicated. Grand Seiko released the SBGJ249 as the updated high-beat GMT reference, with an improved bracelet clasp featuring micro-adjustment, a slightly refined case architecture, and the same 9S86 movement. The collector community that wanted a Grand Seiko high-beat GMT now has 2 options, and the newer one has a better bracelet. The SBGJ203's bracelet clasp, a 3-fold design without the fine adjustment of its successor, became the specific criticism that followed every Chrono 24 listing. Sellers responded by lowering prices to compete with the new reference. The watch did not get worse. The new one got slightly better in one specific area, and the secondary market priced the difference at $1,500. The specific detail that makes this watch worth examining in person before dismissing: the Mount Iwate dial pattern on the SBGJ203 is one of the most technically demanding dial finishes in Grand Seiko's catalog. The ridged surface texture replicates the contoured slopes of the mountain as seen from Studio Shizukuishi at different times of day. In direct light, the pattern produces a 3-dimensional effect that changes as the watch moves. In low light, the same surface settles into a matte black that reads as dramatically different from the bright condition. A watch whose dial looks like 2 different watches depending on the light is not a dial that a specification sheet describes adequately. The SBGJ203 is currently on Chrono 24 in full set condition, box, papers, original bracelet, from trusted sellers who purchased at authorized dealers and are selling because they upgraded to the SBGJ249. The case wear on these examples is minimal because high-beat GMT buyers tend to be careful with their purchases. The regret belongs to the collector who waited for the SBGJ249 to arrive at authorized dealers and found an 18-month allocation waiting list, while the SBGJ203, identical movement, same case finishing, same dial quality, 30% lower price, was sitting on Chrono 24 in full set condition. The bracelet clasp that was the reason for the price drop takes a watchmaker 2 minutes to swap for an aftermarket Seiko-compatible micro-adjust clasp costing $40. The price gap between the two references is $1,500. The collector who spends $40 on the clasp upgrade and $1,500 less on the watch has a SBGJ203 that is functionally identical to the SBGJ249 in every dimension that matters, and has saved $1,460 that the secondary market handed him for knowing one piece of information the boutique does not advertise. The Mount Iwate dial is worth examining separately from the price discussion because it is the specific quality that the transition to the SBGJ249 did not improve. Grand Seiko's Shizukuishi studio applies the dial texture using techniques that the brand has not published and that external reviewers have not fully reverse-engineered from examination. The ridged pattern is not printed or applied from a template. Each dial is individually textured, which means the specific character of the light interaction differs between examples. The collector who examines 3 SBGJ203 examples side by side will find 3 distinct dial expressions within a family of consistent quality. The SBGJ249, when it arrives, will have the same movement and the better bracelet clasp. It will not have a more interesting dial. Alright, tell me in the comments what your favorite watch is. I read every single one. And if you're enjoying this, don't forget to like and subscribe. It genuinely helps the channel, and I appreciate every one of you who does. The SBGJ203 is the clearest successor discount on this list. The next reference is something different, a watch whose price is being suppressed by geography rather than by a newer model stealing its thunder. Number 2. Grand Seiko SBGE255 Spring Drive GMT Blue Hydrangea Dial. Reference SBGE255. Retail approximately $6,200 at United States authorized dealers. Secondary market right now, $4,000 to $4,700, with Chrono 24 reporting an average listing price of approximately $4,700 across more than 50 active listings globally, with an average listing price of approximately $4,700 on Chrono 24 across 50-plus active listings. That is a 24 to 35% drop from retail, depending on condition and seller location. The spring drive movement inside this watch is the specific reason the 30% discount is irrational from an engineering standpoint. The SBGE255 is powered by the spring drive caliber 9R66, the GMT variant of Grand Seiko's proprietary hybrid movement that uses a mainspring for power and electromagnetic braking for regulation, producing a seconds hand that glides in a continuous arc rather than ticking or stepping. Accuracy is plus or minus 1 second per day, tighter than the high beats +5 to -3 range, and approximately 4 to 6 times more accurate than COSC certified Swiss chronometers in daily use. The 40.5mm case is stainless steel with a zirconia ceramic bezel, the same material used in high-end Swiss sports references, and 20-bar water resistance. The blue dial is inspired by hydrangea petals floating on water in the Japanese summer. The reason the SBGE255 is trading below retail is a confluence of factors that the collector community has documented in detail. First, 50% of current Chrono 24 listings originate from Japan, where prices run 10 to 18% lower than United States market prices even after import costs. Japanese collectors who purchased at Japanese retail are selling at prices that undercut United States authorized dealer retail significantly. Second, Grand Seiko released the SBGE295 as the successor reference, with an updated bracelet and revised case proportions. The same pattern that affected the SBGJ203 is playing out here. The newer reference attracting attention, while the older one accumulates listings at declining prices. The specific calculation that makes the SBGE255 interesting right now: a spring drive GMT at $4,000 to $4,200 in the current market delivers the most accurate mechanical watch technology available from any manufacturer at any price in a case with ceramic bezel and 20-bar water resistance, for less than a base Omega Seamaster Professional 300 meters at retail. The movements are not comparable. The Spring Drive 9 R66 is not in the same accuracy class as the Omega's coaxial caliber. It is 4 to 6 times more accurate. The regret belongs to the collector who purchased an Omega Seamaster 300 meters at $4,350 retail in 2025 without checking Chrono 24 and discovering that a Spring Drive GMT, more accurate ceramic bezel, 20-bar water resistance, glide motion seconds hand, was available for $300 less in pre-owned condition from Japanese sellers with full documentation. Both are legitimate watch purchases. The collector who made the Omega choice without knowing the alternative existed made a decision on incomplete information. The authorized dealer had no reason to mention the alternative. The secondary market did not announce itself. The SBGE 255 discount is driven by Japanese market oversupply. The next reference is driven by something more fundamental: a collector community that has not yet agreed on whether the thing it is discounting is actually a limitation. Number 3. Grand Seiko SBGW 261 Manual Wind Elegance Collection. Reference SBGW 261. Retail: approximately $4,500 at United States authorized dealers. Secondary market right now, $2,700 to $3,200 across Chrono 24 and Watch Charts marketplace listings in good to excellent condition. Brace yourself, because that is a 30 to 40% decline on a watch that the serious collector community describes as the most honest Grand Seiko available. And the reason reveals something specific about how this market thinks about movement types. Before explaining why it trades at a 40% discount, let me describe what it actually is. The SBGW 261 is powered by the Caliber 9 S64, Grand Seiko's manual wind movement in a 37mm stainless steel case that the brand describes as the most historically faithful expression of Grand Seiko's original 1960 design language. Manual wind. No rotor, no date. Just hours, minutes, and seconds in a case whose proportions reference the first Grand Seiko ever made. The finishing on the SBGW 261 is to the same Zaratsu standard as every Grand Seiko mechanical reference. Mirror surfaces that hold a ruler's reflection without distortion. Applied indices, hand-finished edges. At 37mm, it disappears under a shirt cuff. The case is 11.6mm thick. It is one of the thinnest in the Grand Seiko catalog. The reason it trades at 30 to 40% below retail is a perception problem rather than a product problem. The Grand Seiko buyer in 2026 is drawn to the Spring Drive's glide motion, to the Highbeat's 10 beats per second sweep, or to the 9F Quartz's plus or minus 10 seconds per year accuracy. Manual wind, where the buyer winds the watch each morning and the movement runs for approximately 72 hours before stopping, reads as inconvenient rather than romantic to a buyer spending $4,000. The collector community that understands what manual winding means at this level, the directness of the mechanical connection, the movement architecture visible without the rotor blocking it, the thinner case enabled by removing the winding infrastructure, considers the SBGW 261 the most honest Grand Seiko available. The secondary market is priced for the buyers who do not understand this yet. The regret belongs to the collector who dismissed the SBGW 261 in 2022 because it required manual winding, bought an automatic reference at full retail, and discovered 2 years later that the SBGW 261 at $2,800 pre-owned delivers identical finishing quality, better case proportions for a dress watch context, and a movement whose simplicity is part of its engineering appeal. The specific historical context that the collector community invokes when discussing the SBGW 261. Grand Seiko was founded in 1960 with a single stated purpose: to make the most accurate watch in the world using the techniques that Japanese craftspeople had developed over decades. The first Grand Seiko was a manually wound dress watch. The Spring Drive, the High-Beat Automatic, the 9F Quartz, all of these came later, as Grand Seiko's engineers developed new ways to pursue accuracy. The manual wind SBGW 261 is the form that Grand Seiko took at its origin, executed with the finishing quality that 6 decades of refinement have produced. Owning a SBGW261 is not owning an inconvenient watch. It is owning the format that Grand Seiko considers most connected to its founding philosophy, the direct mechanical engagement that no automatic or electronic movement can replicate. The collector who winds the SBGW261 each morning before placing it on their wrist is performing the same ritual that Grand Seiko's 1960 customers performed. That continuity costs 30 to 40% less than the automatic references in the same collection. The watch is not inconvenient. The perception of inconvenience is the reason for the discount. The specific collector profile for whom the SBGW261 is the correct Grand Seiko purchase. Someone who wears a watch to the office in a dress shirt, who values case proportions that work under a cuff, who wants Grand Seiko's finishing quality in the format closest to the brand's founding brief, and who winds their watch each morning as a deliberate act rather than an inconvenience. That collector is currently buying the SBGW261 at $2,700 to $3,200 pre-owned. The collector who does not fit that profile is the one who left the SBGW261 on Chrono 24 and created the discount. Neither collector is wrong. The discount exists because the second collector is more numerous than the first. The SBGW261 trades at a discount because of a perception problem that informed collectors recognize as an opportunity. The next reference trades at a discount because of an identity problem that the market will eventually resolve, and when it does, the discount will close. Number 4. Grand Seiko SBGH337 High Beat 36,000 Prospects Diver. Reference SBGH337. Retail: approximately $6,500 at United States authorized dealers. Secondary market right now: $4,200 to $4,600 in full set condition. A 30 to 35% decline on a reference housing what Grand Seiko's engineers consider the most significant mechanical advancement in the brand's history since the spring drive itself. The reason reveals something specifically uncomfortable about how Grand Seiko positioned this watch. The movement inside this watch is the reason this discount will not last indefinitely. The SBGH337 is powered by the high beat caliber 9 SA5, Grand Seiko's most advanced automatic movement, featuring a dual impulse escapement that the brand developed internally and that eliminates the energy loss inherent in conventional Swiss lever escapements. Running at 36,000 vibrations per hour with a 72-hour power reserve, the 9 SA5 is the movement that Grand Seiko's engineering teams spent a decade developing as the next generation beyond the 9 S86. The 200-meter dive-certified case is stainless steel with the Zaratsu finishing that the collector community has come to expect. And the dial carries the bi-directional rotating bezel of a professional sport watch. This is a genuine professional dive instrument with a movement whose architecture has no direct equivalent in Swiss watchmaking. The problem is identity. The SBGH337 sits between two clearly defined Grand Seiko categories without fully belonging to either. Collectors who want a Grand Seiko heritage piece, the seasonal dials, the dress watch proportions, the refined refinement. Look at the SBGH337's sporty case and bezel and move on to the heritage spring drive references. Collectors who want a Grand Seiko Prospex dive watch, the Marine Master, the Land Master, the Ushio. Look at the SBGH337's heritage-influenced finishing quality and wonder whether they are paying for dive watch capability or dress watch refinement. The answer is both. But the collector community that defines secondary market values has not decided how to classify it, and undecided references trade at discounts while the market resolves the question. The 9SA5 movement deserves specific attention because it represents the most significant mechanical advancement Grand Seiko has made since the spring drive itself. The dual impulse escapement that Grand Seiko developed for the 9SA5 delivers force to the balance wheel twice per oscillation, rather than once, producing more consistent energy delivery and better positional accuracy than the conventional lever escapement. The 72-hour power reserve at 36,000 vibrations per hour is an engineering achievement that Swiss manufacturers have not matched at comparable price points. The physics of running a high-frequency movement require either a larger mainspring barrel or more efficient energy transfer, and the 9SA5 achieves the latter through the dual impulse architecture. In the SBG H273 Heritage Collection reference, the 9SA5 is trading at secondaries closer to full retail. In the SBG H337, the identical movement is available at a 30 to 35% discount because the case wears a bezel. The specific investment thesis for the SBG H337 at current prices. The 9SA5 movement is the most technically significant automatic Grand Seiko has ever produced. References with the 9SA5 at equivalent price points are trading at premiums. The SBG H337's identity confusion has temporarily suppressed its price below what the movement alone would justify. That suppression is a window. The data point that makes this argument most specific. The SBG H273 Heritage Collection reference, same 9SA5 movement, dress watch case, no dive bezel, is trading at secondary market prices considerably closer to retail than the SBG H337. The collector community that understood the 9SA5's significance purchased the SBG H273 and the SBG H337, is sitting with more inventory at lower prices. The movement inside both watches is identical. The secondary market has priced them differently because one has a bezel. When the collector community resolves its classification of the SBG H337, which it will, as the reference accumulates reviews, forum coverage, and ownership testimony, the price gap between the two 9SA5 references will narrow. The SBG H337 buyer who purchases at current secondary market prices and holds for 12 to 24 months is positioned to benefit from that narrowing. The SBG H337 is a window that patience closes. The fifth reference is a window that recognition closes. And Grand Seiko's recognition is growing at a pace the data documents clearly. Number 5. Grand Seiko SBG A203. Spring Drive. Shizukuishi. Winter Pattern Dial. Reference SBG A203. Retail. Approximately $5,800 at United States authorized dealers. Secondary market right now, $3,600 to $4,000, a 30 to 38% decline that is simultaneously the steepest drop on this list and the most irrational one relative to what the watch delivers. The reason for the discount on this watch is the single most irrational basis for a price premium in the watch market. The SBG A203 is powered by the Spring Drive Caliber 9 R65 in a 40mm titanium case, the same case material and movement combination that made the SBG A211 Snowflake the most recognized Grand Seiko reference in the world. The dial texture replicates winter patterns at the Shizukuishi studio, a white surface with a depth and texture that photographs differently in every lighting condition. The titanium case weighs approximately 100 grams on the bracelet. The spring drive delivers 1 second per day accuracy and the glide motion seconds hand that no other production watch movement produces. By every specification measure, the SBG A203 belongs in the same category as the Snowflake. The reason it trades at 30 to 38% below retail while the Snowflake holds its secondary market value better is recognition. The SBG A211 Snowflake has been on Grand Seiko boutique walls and in collector photography for long enough that it carries name recognition outside the hardcore collector community. The SBG A203 does not. The collector who walks into a gathering and explains that their watch is a Grand Seiko Spring Drive in titanium with a winter pattern dial will be understood by the same audience that immediately recognizes the Snowflake. The movement is the same. The case material is the same. The manufacturing standard is the same. The 35 to 38% price gap is explained entirely by one word that does not appear on the dial: Snowflake. The collector community's growing body of comparative reviews has documented the SBG A203's finishing quality in direct comparison to the SBG A211 Snowflake across dozens of forum threads and video reviews. The consistent conclusion: The Zaratsu polished case surfaces are equivalent. The spring drive 9R65 caliber is identical. The titanium case weight and dimensions are the same. The Shizukuishi winter pattern dial is not universally described as inferior to the Snowflake. Some reviewers prefer the SBGA203's more complex surface texture, which produces a richer interplay of light across the white surface. The only dimension in which the SBGA203 measurably underperforms the SBGA211 is name recognition. And name recognition is the most arbitrary and most reversible form of value premium available in the watch market. A reference whose price gap relative to its more famous sibling is based entirely on a nickname the collector community assigned will close that gap as the collector community grows. Grand Seiko's United States sales have grown continuously for 6 consecutive years. The audience discovering the brand for the first time in 2026 is encountering the SBGA 203 alongside the Snowflake for the first time. Their comparative assessment is not colored by the marketing history that inflated the Snowflake's premium. The data that makes the SBGA 203 the most interesting opportunity on this list, the Snowflake SBGA 211 in pre-owned condition currently trades between $4,500 and $5,600, a secondary market that has held consistent despite the brand's overall 5.5% index decline. The SBGA 203 in pre-owned condition trades at $3,600 to $4,000. Both watches use the same 9R65 spring drive movement in the same titanium heritage case format. The price gap is not justified by engineering. It is justified by marketing history. And marketing history is the least durable basis for a price premium in the watch market. The specific mechanism by which the recognition gap closes. Every new collector who discovers Grand Seiko in 2026 through a boutique visit, a YouTube video, or a forum thread encounters both the Snowflake and the SBGA 203 as current catalog references. Their first comparison is unbiased by the marketing history that created the Snowflake's nickname, Premium. They evaluate both on dial quality, movement, case, and price. A meaningful percentage of those new collectors will choose the SBGA 203 over the Snowflake, not because it is better, but because the dial texture they prefer is on the SBGA 203, or because the 38% lower price represents better value for a first Grand Seiko purchase. Each of those purchasing decisions adds demand to a reference that currently has excess secondary market supply. Excess supply plus growing demand is the mechanical definition of a price floor. The collector community on Watch You Seek, Reddit's r/Grand Seiko, and the Watch Charts Marketplace forum has been discussing all 5 of these references with increasing specificity over the past 3 months. The consensus that has emerged, the SBGJ 203 and SBGE 255, are the most actionable opportunities because the specific reasons for their discount are most clearly time-limited. The SBGW 261 is the most contrarian play, buying a discount based on a perception that only educated collectors recognize as a misperception. The SBGH 337 requires the most patience. The SBGA 203 is what the community describes as the sleeper, the reference whose moment has not arrived yet, but whose engineering makes the eventual arrival inevitable. The 48 new references Grand Seiko released in 2025 created a supply overhang in the secondary market that the current price levels reflect. Grand Seiko has not announced any slowdown in release pace for 2026. The brand released a further wave of references at Watches and Wonders 2026. That continued supply does not change the value of these 5 specific references, but it does suggest that the broader Grand Seiko secondary market correction may not be over. The opportunity is in the specific references whose discount is driven by identifiable, non-structural factors, not in buying Grand Seiko broadly and hoping the market recovers. Here is how to read these 5 watches. The SBGJ 203 and the SBGE 255 are successor discounts. The newer model arrived with a specific improvement. The older model's price dropped to compensate, and the price gap far exceeds the value of the improvement. The SBGJ203's bracelet clasp costs $40 to upgrade. The SBGE255's successor has revised proportions that some collectors prefer and others do not. Both are buying opportunities for the collector willing to research what actually changed and make the value judgment themselves. The window on both closes when the new references become widely available and buyers stop comparing. The SBGW261 is a perception discount, the manual wind movement that the market prices as inconvenient when it is actually the most historically direct expression of what Grand Seiko is. The collector who understands manual winding buys at 30 to 40% below the market price of a collector who does not. This discount may prove the most durable of the five because the perception problem does not resolve on its own. It requires education, which spreads slowly. The SBGH337 is an identity discount. The market has not resolved where this watch belongs, so it prices it below what either category commands. Patience resolves this kind of discount. The 9SA5 movement will eventually be recognized as the anchor quality regardless of the case category. The SBGA203 is a recognition discount, the watch without the famous nickname, trading below the watch that has it. This is the most reversible discount on the list because recognition accumulates as the brand grows and as new collectors make unbiased comparisons. 5 different discounts. 5 different time frames for resolution. 1 consistent underlying asset. Grand Seiko engineering quality that the secondary market is temporarily pricing below what it delivers. Go check the Chrono 24 listings yourself. These are the prices. These are the reasons. The rest is your decision. The SBGJ203 and the SBGE255 are what the Seiko script would call successor discounts. The newer model arrived with one specific improvement. The older model's price dropped to compensate, and the price gap far exceeds the value of the improvement. Both are buying opportunities for the collector, who is willing to research what actually changed between the old and new reference and make the value judgment themselves. The SBGW261 is a perception discount, the manual wind movement that the market misunderstands as inconvenient. This is the purest value play on the list because the discount is based on something the educated collector knows is not a defect. The collector who understands manual winding is buying at a 30 to 40% discount relative to a collector who does not. The SBGH337 is an identity discount. The market has not resolved where this watch belongs, so it is pricing it below what either category commands. Patience resolves this kind of discount, but patience requires confidence that the market will eventually agree with your analysis. The SBGA203 is a recognition discount, the watch without the famous nickname trading at a significant discount to the watch with it. This is the most reversible of all 5 discounts because recognition grows as the brand grows and as more collectors handle both references and reach the obvious conclusion. The wait 30 days formula works because current secondary market oversupply does not last indefinitely. Sellers who need to move watches lower their prices. Buyers who recognize the window close it. The watches on this list are at prices today that the collector community's forward-looking data suggests will not persist into the second half of 2026, as Grand Seiko's recognition continues its documented growth trajectory. The specific caveat that honest analysis requires: secondary market watches come in different conditions, and Grand Seiko's Zaratsu polished surfaces show wear in ways that standard brushed steel does not. A polished surface with even minor scratches shows them clearly. The distortion-free mirror reflects imperfections that would be invisible on a matte surface. The price range cited for each reference on this list assumes good to excellent condition with original bracelet. Full set condition with box and papers within warranty adds 5 to 10% to the secondary market value. A polished case with visible lug scratches subtracts 15 to 20% from the values cited here. The Chrono 24 listing price is not the Chrono 24 transaction price. Buyers negotiate, sellers accept lower offers, and the actual clearing price typically runs 5 to 8% below the asking price. Factor these variables into any purchase decision. The specific caveat honest analysis requires Secondary market watches come in different conditions, and Grand Seiko's Zaratsu polished surfaces show wear differently than brushed steel. A polished surface with even minor scratches reflects them clearly. The price ranges cited here assume good to excellent condition with original bracelet and box and papers. A polished case with visible lug scratches subtracts 15 to 20%. The Chrono 24 asking price is not the transaction price. Buyers negotiate, and the actual clearing price typically runs 5 to 8% below asking. Factor these variables before acting on anything in this video. Whether that analysis proves correct, only time will tell. The secondary market data is the most honest thing about these watches. The authorized dealer price is set by Grand Seiko. The secondary market price is set by collectors who have evaluated everything the authorized dealer will not tell you. The true demand for a reference relative to its supply, the specific qualities that make collectors want to hold it or sell it, and the gap between what a watch should be worth based on its engineering and what it is worth based on how many people recognize the name on the dial. The 5 watches on this list have a gap between those two valuations that current market conditions have opened wider than usual. This gap will close. The question is whether it closes because the engineering value was always overstated, or because the recognition catches up to the quality. For these 5 references, the data says the latter. What is true right now, today, is the data itself. Go check the Chrono 24 listings yourself before you pull any trigger. These are the prices. These are the reasons. The rest is your decision. Thank you so much for watching this video all the way to the end. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, drop a like and let me know your thoughts in the comments. And I'd genuinely love to hear what kind of topics you'd like to see next, so leave that in the comments too. I read every single one.